Welcome back everybody, this is Lars, and in this third video on more or less the same subject, which is the future and how a lot of technological advances will affect the different parts of our society and how it will shape our future, really. So we have talked about the logistics of the things and the labor market, how that will actually affect that, and we have been talking about I would say the end game of human technological process, and basically where we'll end up not having to do most of the progress ourselves. So the next part is of course then about the politics and how all these changes will affect the politics. So for the second video, it wasn't really that necessary to watch the first one, really, because it was semi-separate, a semi-separate theme, really, or a topic. This one, though, you really should watch the first video, just because you need to understand what this is going to do to the labor market, to understand what it's going to do with the politics of tomorrow. So, first of all, the basics. Today's political system and economical system is based around labor. Even though we don't want to admit it, Karl Marx had a point when he said that labor is the fundamental unit of economy. It's not money. It's not like $1 is not a fundamental unit, because $1 is changing. It's the value of a dollar is changing, but the value, realistic value in productivity, is not really changing from like a market perspective, but it is changing from a technological perspective. Or, well, it changes. The value of work will be changed inside the market itself, but not because of the market itself. There are other forces at play there. So, if today we have a system basically that says that everybody should work. Everybody should work a set amount of hours, and then they will, based on which type of work they have, they will be paid a certain amount, and they will use that and spend that money back into the economy, and basically that's the cycle that drives our economy, the feedback loop, really. We take some of that money as taxes, we spend that on public works and services, including the basic survival needs, and some like overhead to the needy, the basically the unemployed, the sick, the whatever, really. And that of course is a great thing, because we don't need more people who aren't able to actually feed money back into the system, and instead having to resort to, let's say, crime or just starvation. That would be horrible. We can't do that. But so in a system like that, how do we fit the growing reality that we are going to end up having less and less people working less and less? So they say that, oh, everybody has to work twice as much in the future because we are going to have so many old people, or we're going to have so many expenses of all kinds. It's not really true. It's because at some point human capital is not going to be that interesting, as machines will do the same, most of the same functions for cheaper. And that's it. That is actually where our modern economy breaks down, because at some point very few people will own everything. It might be still the same people who own everything today, but they don't have a need for the non-owning part of the population anymore. They don't need them for anything, really. They need them to consume their products, to be able to sell stuff, but the people who are supposed to be buying the products aren't actually creating any value to society. Well, at least no economic value. They're not putting back the stuff back into production. They aren't creating in the same way that they are today. And even more was 50 years ago, because you needed a lot of manual labor to get stuff done, and people were paid for that labor. Now, of course, it's more intellectual labor. Of course, there's a lot of manual labor as well, but more and more has been phased out, and it's more like the carpenters and plumbers and people like that who still do manual labor, not the in the same way the hundreds of farmhands and those kind of people. So as I said, at some point the system will just break down because we aren't able to really keep distributing wealth through labor anymore. And at some point society basically has to decide that either we just tax the people who are owning everything and let their machines decide what is how we will invest based on their own greed, basically. And honestly, in today's system there's nothing wrong with greed, well, as long as you pay your damn taxes. We still need to pay for a lot of stuff in our society, but thing is, in the world of tomorrow we might not have a need for the traditional market system as basically a driving force of the economy, because basically the traditional market system is great at one thing, that is making everything more efficient, making production more efficient through restructuring things, because it has a direct economical benefit to the people who actually own the means for production, and also, of course, using technological advances. And the competition inside that market also drives technological advances really quickly, because everybody wants to offer a better product to their consumers or their customers, which of course is a good thing. We are in a world with limited resources, and limited both in labor and in especially in like physical resources, raw materials and stuff. But at some point that will probably not be the case, because it won't be long. Like, when I say it won't be long, I'm talking in like in relative terms, as our society, our modern world is not old, but the human existence and the human societies that are more or less modeled the same way, they have been going on for quite a while. I'm talking maybe 50 years. Let's say 50 years. In 50 years, I would say it's very probable that we are actively mining asteroids for resources, sending them back to Earth orbit and dropping raw resources back to the surface for production, or even producing stuff in space. Because, well, a lot of the resources might be used for space exploration, or at least some of them. But mainly dropping stuff back through orbit, like rare metals and even other metals that are scarce today might not be tomorrow. We have certain chemicals that we need for example, farming and stuff like that, nitrogen and all that stuff, which is abundant in the atmosphere but really expensive to extract. We have, of course, there are others as well, which might be abundant in some asteroids. There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of ways that will change the resource situation. So at some point, because we won't have the scarcity of labor, we will not have the scarcity of resources as well. And then we'll end up in a system where humans aren't really needed to produce stuff, and the only thing they have left is consuming stuff, which of course will necessitate a whole nother system of government and a whole nother system of economy. And of course the most efficient, if the machines are actually able to really intelligently manage production inside one company or one factory or one unit like that, they might as well be just a big network that would cooperate instead of compete, because they will set an acceptable level of quality, which would be pretty high, since labor costs and resource costs will be extremely low, and it would be very, very easy to create cheap, high quality goods, and energy will probably be cheap, because nuclear energy will be more common, and they will be operated by basically super intelligent machines that won't make human errors. So it will be safe, or maybe we'll even get better ways to generate electricity, more renewable energy resources and all that stuff created, like the solar panels created by machines from the enormously cheap abundant metals we can find elsewhere. So we'll basically be in a post-scarcity, post-labor society. And if you think that having a few people owning everything at that point would actually work, I think you're a fool, really. Because, and no offense, really, because this is something that most people don't really think about, and most people just assume that the society we have now and the structure we have now is going to last forever, and it's just going to be like that. And most science fiction has a lot of people working, like the normal kind of jobs we will have now, like desk jobs and stuff like that, even though a computer could do it better, because they haven't thought about the possibility that we don't need to do those things. So they modeled the society as a more technologically advanced version of our society. So if you think that is how it's going to end up, you're not alone at all. And but I think in many ways we could actually look at how Karl Marx looked at the labor market, the system of labor, the exploitation of labor, but in the framework of the society of 2050, we could draw very different conclusions, really. But the saying would be more or less the same. Basically, everyone has to perform or give as they're able, and receive what they need, right? That paraphrased. I don't remember the exact quote in English for some reason, but it wouldn't be like that, because we wouldn't really need to do anything, or ability wouldn't really factor in. The need for us to do something would be extremely small, and the need for us to get stuff would be high, because the standards of living would be a lot higher, but it would also be a lot cheaper to fulfill those needs. And so maybe we'll have to start looking at how we're going to prepare for a society where labor is not a factor. And how do we decide who gets the resources and the surplus of production when labor is not needed anymore? How do we actually how do we decide how to share those spoils? I don't know how we would actually do that. I have some ideas, but we don't need to go into those right now. So I can see at least one more facet of this whole topic that we really should look into, and we will look into that in the next episode, and that would be the more personal and philosophical, and maybe even ethical concerns of a society that has gotten that far. So yeah, how will people actually live inside that system will be the next part, and I hope you'll join me for that one as well. See you next time.